and the recording's starting. I'm the Student Relations Officer for the Faculty of Health. I'm going to be filling in for Jen Bentley, who's our Alumni Engagement Officer today. She's the one who's worked so hard to create this event, and she apologizes for not being able to be here today. To get started, I'd like to acknowledge that much of the work of the University of Waterloo takes place on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized within our Indigenous Relations Office. And with that being said, I am excited to welcome you to our final week of alumni office hours for the term. Today we are featuring Ahmad Syed. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with office hours, bringing alumni back to connect with students is an important priority, both for the Faculty of Health and the broader university community. The reason for that is our alumni help show students what's possible. The success that our alumni like Ahmad have had and the stories that they share help to shine a light on the path for students who might be wondering what their own futures look like, whether that's, I know we have some undergrad students and some graduate students here. So hopefully this can help shed some light on what a potential future for you looks like. Jen and her team, you'll see Aisha here today is a co-op student working with me and really making sure that being very helpful for me and helping Jen plan this. So Jen and her team are planning to host alumni office hours event series every term, and I think for the fall in October and November. But if you have any requests for careers you'd like to see or information that you'd like to get out of these sessions, please feel free to share your ideas in the chat or follow up with myself or Jen, and we're happy to take that feedback into consideration. With a roughly smaller group today, and because it's nicer to see friendly faces, I'd ask you to turn on your cameras if you're able to, just to make this a bit more personal and easier to have those types of conversation that we're hoping for. What's going to happen is I'll do a quick introduction. Ahmed will speak a little bit about his experience, and then we'll move into a Q&A. When it comes time for the Q&A, you can either raise your virtual hand to ask a question or use the chat to say something like, I have a question, and we'll keep track of who's in line and call on your question in turn. So with that being said, I think I'll pass it over to Ahmed, who has a graduate degree in our informatics from the University of Waterloo School of Public Health Sciences. I'll let Ahmed introduce himself and say a little bit about his work experience and advice he might have for you folks. So pleasure to have you today, Ahmed.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Josh. My name is Ahmad Syed. I'm the Surgical Clinical Analyst at William Osler Health System. It's a fancy title for business/data analyst. I worked at William Osler Health System as the practicum intern in the IT department. It was a 4-month practicum, which involved into a part-time contract and then into a full-time employment. I was very lucky at the time. The IT departments were implementing major projects, and I was a big part of it. There were 3 projects that I worked on were the Engage app. It was a communications app for clinicians. The second project that I worked on was the Meditech Security Officer upgrade. This is the electronic health record system that the hospital uses. And we had a massive Windows 10 update across our 3 sites. I'm going to need to discuss one quickly, the Engage app. In this app, I worked with the vendor on what the software will do and how. We obviously discussed security and privacy and data integration. What I have mentioned here are 3 core courses in the Health Informatics program, respectively HLTH 615, CS 634, and CS 792. During the internship, there was a huge moment of gratitude that I remember like yesterday. I said to myself, oh my God, what I'm studying here in master's program is so relevant to what I'm doing. And that's not a knock at my undergraduate studies. I studied organizational behavior and health psychology. So thankfully, the admission committee saw the potential and the drive in me. Fast forward to where I am right now. I work with a lot of databases. I'm pulling data, cleaning it, and generating reports. Prior to my graduate studies, I didn't know what a database was. Now I spend most of my day in it. For me, the most important course was CS 638. Everything foundational related to database I learned in this course. So in a nutshell, what I do is I pull data, generate reports on quality of care and business side of the surgical program. I automate reports that are repetitive, and I assist in creating dashboards and track scorecards of our key performance indicators. My advice for undergraduate students, if you want to be part of healthcare and not deal with direct patient care, and if you like technology and statistics, then health informatics is the career path for you. If I were to show you my undergraduate transcript, I took a lot of courses in statistics. For graduate students, absorb high-level knowledge as much as possible and ask yourself, which stream in health informatics do you want to work? Once what you find you love, hone that skill. For me, it was data analytics. There is no substitute for experience. There are countless jobs available right now across Canada. So get your foot in the door. I know Niagara, Hamilton, Toronto, and Durham region has massive job openings for Epic support staff. Epic is another electronic health record system. I myself took a part-time job with SHN in Epic implementation while working full-time. So there is no excuse. Be determined, resilient, and keep on applying. Those of you that are wondering what a data analyst would make, in my role, you can make somewhere between 60 and 90K. It is a comfortable living with my emphasis on work-life balance. This was important to me. Lastly, since I have the spotlight, I would like to bring to everyone's attention the importance role the administration played in my success, particularly Ashley King. I cannot thank her enough. And I'm not the only unique story. This has happened with other colleague of mine. She's also at the same graduating class and also works at my hospital. So this is a brief introduction. I'm going to open up for any questions that you guys have.
Awesome, thanks. And I think it's, I don't know if it was planned or not, but I think it's awesome that Ashley's here today to be here. So the support continues, which is great to see from staff. But thank you for that introduction. I don't see anything in the chat yet, but I know sometimes it can be a bit slow to warm up. So if you have anything percolating, feel free to type it in the chat. We do have some questions that were submitted beforehand that we can start with. Now you mentioned that at the very beginning, you mentioned a practicum and that your practicum is where you're currently working. Can you say a little bit about the process and what was involved with the practicum, where it fell in the course, how you ended up where you ended up?
So I don't know if Ashley remembers this. She was a big part of finding me all the interviews. And I think so the first 3 interviews I probably bombed. And each time I would bomb, I'll go to Ashley and she would work on me on my interview skills. And she would even tell me to go to career services. I remember meeting with someone and they really helped me build my resume. And to this day, I use the same template. So I think the first interview was with the city of Waterloo, and that was just horrible. I just remember that I just wanted to leave in the mid interview. Fourth one, and this was the last one. I live in Brampton, and this was hospital is located in Brampton. So I went there. We had an interview, and at this point, I think so I'd taken a lot of courses, so I knew what to talk about it. And at this point, they were talking about the Engage app, as I mentioned in my talk, and they had asked me some questions, and I told them that this is how I can help them. And that was the process. And I think so that's where things started flowing. And once they saw the work ethic in me, I volunteered, but they also wanted me to be part of other projects. So that was the process. I think so I reached out to Ashley, and Ashley would, I think she would also send out emails where it would tell these are the practicum opportunities available, so apply. And actually drop in if I'm saying something incorrect or if my memory is dodging me here or there.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. I think that you followed everything that I tell our students to do is go for the Center for Career Action for help with interview skills and making sure the resume really is the best resume you have. And then, yeah, really reaching out to the sites that interest you and follow up too with any interviews that don't go well or that you didn't receive to see if you can get their feedback and then apply that feedback as you move on to other future interviews.
Yeah, I know that definitely great advice and some great lessons in there that you can have 1, 2, 3 terrible interviews and then on the 4th one still be successful, still have a job for a practicum and go on to have a successful career. So for anyone really, co-op students or folks in the regular streams that maybe have had some bad interviews, know that there's hope, and we've all been there as well. I'm wondering, going back a little bit further, what led you to decide to pursue a graduate degree in health informatics? What were you doing before, and then what made you decide this is the degree for me?
So I was studying health psychology, and I knew I wanted to be in healthcare. Medicine, I didn't have the grades, so I thought that that's out of the boat. So I think I was speaking with Aisha, and she was saying she wants to pursue that program. Be resilient, go for it, right? Don't give up on your dreams. Looking back, even going back to grade school, I remember my mom has this box where it has, in grade school, I remember volunteering for Toronto Public Health, and over there I was doing data analysis for Toronto Public Health. So this was something, statistics was, I guess, ingrained in my DNA. So in undergraduate, I did a lot of statistical courses, and it was a perfect match. And when this program came about, I was just doing my research, like what I want to pursue, because I didn't want to deal with direct patient care. So once I found out that the statistics and technology, it goes hand in hand, this was the perfect marriage. And I said, well, I'm going to apply for it. And there were a few other programs that I was looking at, but when it comes to University of Waterloo's reputation, there was no competition. The practicum was a big reason why I joined.
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, the experiential learning piece is something that Waterloo's known for and prides itself on. So I can see why that would be such an appealing piece. Going through some of the questions, you've spoken a bit about this, but in maybe those early projects, you mentioned there's a few times where your managers were saying, oh my gosh, we're so glad, or you were saying, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm learning this in my classes because of what's going on with the projects. Can you say a little bit more about how you applied the skills you gained from your courses into that practicum, which then led to your current position?
Okay, so one of the courses, I think so, it was HLT, H615. So any graduate students, if you are here, correct me if I'm wrong. We worked in group sessions and we would make requirement documentation. And when I was during my practicum, we were sitting with the vendors and they were doing the exact same thing. They were creating rules, regulations. And I remember going back to my seminar course that we were doing the same thing. And I would literally open up my course and I would say, okay, this is what they're doing and this is how we should do it. So it was actually applying theoretical knowledge. And for me, that was studying psychology. That was hard to do, right? You cannot study psychology and then do counseling as a practicum, right? Especially for undergraduate student, maybe for graduate level courses, but to see working knowledge being applied, that was beautiful to me. It was very meaningful.
No, it's great when the work's engaging and meaningful, like you said.
Yeah.
I
think Ashley has a question.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Ashley. I didn't see your hand up.
No, that's okay. I just raised it. So I have two questions for you. One of them is we often have students entering the MHI program trying to figure out how they can start to get experience within health informatics because they don't have that experience yet. So do you have any tips on how somebody new in health informatics or working their way through school, what kind of experience can they gain as a student as they're trying to work their way through the program?
So right now, like I mentioned earlier, so in Toronto, so depending really, if you're in Toronto, SHN is hiring massively for their Epic implementation. You literally need to be having a heartbeat just to go there because there's such a requirement of implementing it. I would tell you to go there and apply. And I was surprised if you're an MHI student, very likely are likely to get hired. And that's a great foot in the door. And once you get in, you will know which stream you want to go under because MHI health informatics is so huge. Whether you want to go into learning side, whether you want to go into data analytics, whether you want to go into building applications. So you'll get the experience what you're looking for.
Perfect. And what other opportunities are there within the healthcare setting for people who have an MHI degree? Are there different roles and responsibilities? Is it just one role that you can get? Like what kind of career options are available within a hospital setting? So
within a hospital setting, you can. So I know a colleague of mine. She started in data analytics, but she said it wasn't for her. She found it too dry. So she went into, and I find that pretty cool. She went into privacy and security, and this is where you probably have heard the famous example of if there was a VIP and there was a nurse that was going into checking her record, and they have these cool features where they can track who is checking up on others. So that's what she does. She does surveillance work for the hospital. So you can go into policy side, you can go into security and privacy, you can go into building applications for the hospital. There's a lot of opportunities.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Those are my two questions.
Thanks, Ashley. And I'm wondering for the folks who are here, maybe if in the chat, if you wanted to let us know, because we had a pretty good split registered. So I'm curious who's actually here in terms of if you're a undergrad student, a graduate student, and sort of checking in as to where you're coming from or where you're joining us from today, just to give us a better sense of what questions might be more useful for you to hear.
I also want to say teaching is a big part of in health informatics. If you love teaching, a lot of my job I see is teaching nurses. Many of them are, have been there for a while now, and many of them are end of their retirement age. So teaching technology is a big component I see, and that being the biggest hurdle right now. So if you love teaching, look into learning technology and implementing it.
That's a really great point that I think often gets overlooked. There's that at some point the tech needs to bridge with the end users, and someone needs to build that bridge. So now I see basically a 50-50 split, maybe a few more undergrads. So we'll stick around there. Maybe there might be some recent undergrads or graduates or recent graduates, people about to graduate from their undergrad degree. I'm wondering if, as a student about to graduate with not much background in health informatics, maybe they didn't take as many statistics courses you did in your undergrad. What are some suggestions from your end to maybe fill some of that gap before they get into the master's? What are some things that they could do that lead to them ultimately working in the field?
So what I did was, I remember then it was Helen Chen, I think so. She was the program director or something. I can't remember her role. I reached out to her and I told her, hey, I've never done programming. Because that was my biggest fear, programming. Like, I've never worked in SQL or any of those, Python or even R even. So she suggested to me, she sent me a link, and it was something to do with, and it was Waterloo's link where you can go and learn programming courses, and it was free to all students. I can't remember the website, but it had a Waterloo URL to it. That's what I did prior to enrolling. Start of September, I took those courses, and those are free courses. And even if not that, you can use YouTube. Trust me, I still YouTube at work. It was very important during my undergraduate. Yes, the professors are nice, but to hear from a different voice sometimes helps a lot. So you can study and learn on your own.
Yeah, and I see Rupi's added Coursera is also helpful for solving problems. Yeah,
so that's a great point. So a friend of mine, he just reached out to me and he wants to get into the stream. And I told him, get a job. So he got a job as an admin position. And he's making somewhere between, and people like to know what they're making. So he's making, he's making around between 20 and 25 an hour. And I said, the money's not important. Get your foot in the door. And he's now enrolled into Coursera's Google Data Analyst program. And I think and I saw the course content. It's very relevant in order to be a data analyst in healthcare. So Coursera has a good program over there as well.
No, that's great. Yeah, those are some great ways for students to maybe fill some gaps before, if they're feeling like they're not quite prepared for the master's program, but still interested in a career there. It looks like some people have some questions. So Shani, I saw in the chat, had a question about pursuing data analytics as an entry-level role as a graduate of the MHI program. Shani, did you want to expand on that question at all?
Yes. Hi. So I'm a recent MHI graduate, and similar to you, I've also found it interesting, like dabbling into different career paths in MHI. Like you said, it's so diverse in what you can pursue. And I really took an interest in data analytics. In my internship, I got into automating reports for a health tech company. But yeah, I'm just interested in working more with health data specifically. And I was just wondering if you had some advice for, I know you mentioned some entry level roles, but something more specific to data analytics. from like a recent graduate perspective?
So if you're looking for employment and someone like you and this applies to me as well, for someone like you and I, we would, it would be very beneficial for us to pursue certifications in SQL or Power BI. And those are the main big ones that the healthcare, but the public healthcare uses. The alternatives are IBM Cognitos. So certifications in data analytics is very important. So Power BI, look into that, and SQL. So those are, in my opinion, those are the key big ones.
Okay.
And let me put it this way. If you have those certifications, you are guaranteed to get an interview.
Okay. And what sort of BI applications?
So Power BI, Microsoft Power BI. Sorry, I wasn't clear.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's an exam called, forgetting the exam. If you Google it, it'll come up.
Okay, thank you.
That's great that you had like actual, these are the certifications that will be helpful. That's awesome and helpful to know what interviewers are looking for. I think Amen, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name, but you had your hand up as well.
Hi, it's Eamon. So I just had a question regarding your selection process when you were deciding to pursue your master's. Did you consider any other programs? And during your master's, did you feel like the online component was a bit of a drawback during your MHI at Waterloo?
So that's a good question. I had offers from other schools. So, okay, so for me, as I said, my undergraduate was in psychology. So I wanted to see whether should I pursue master's in psychology or organization behavior. And the competing program that was with University of Waterloo's MHI was with McMaster. And that required, I think, so GMAT. So I hadn't prepared for GMAT. Whereas but they required GMAT, and I think that they required something else. A course done through EDX, I think so. They required one of that things. And for me, I was at a point in my life where, it was hard to do work and pursue GMAT. So I applied for to MHI at Waterloo, and I was accepted. I thought I had no shot of getting into MHI at Waterloo. So once I got that, I declined my other offers, which was from Queen's and from University of Toronto. Again, it was in psychology. So sorry, did I answer your question there, or what is
No, yes. So the second part was I know like the MHI program is completely online.
Yeah.
Did you feel that was a bit of a drawback?
During my time, again, I was fortunate in this. There was no pandemic, right? So the professors had the option, if you were interested, you could come in person. So for many of Helen Chen's courses, I did go in person. I usually just be her and speaking. So if I really wanted, I could attend. I don't know if that's the case right now.
Okay.
But let me tell you, this is it's advantageous to do it online, because with the pandemic on, I'm working from home. So it builds, that you have to work on your own.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Can I just pipe in for a second? I want to say too, even though we are an online program, like Ahmad came to my office and met with me in person. And I'm assuming he did that with other people too.
Yeah.
So just because it's an online program doesn't mean you still can't engage with the people who are taking the program or teaching the program in person. So you still have the opportunity to come and meet with people as needed, and to come and attend office hours in person or online.
And I cannot, let me emphasize this, the MHI program, the students that I worked with, they were all managers, right? So I networked like crazy, right? And not everyone is as social as me. At first, it is scary for me also to reach out to people. What if they say no? So what, right? So the current manager at my hospital is also a graduate of MHI from this very program. The data analyst in renal program is also data analyst. So a lot of big people were doing this program, right? And I was sold on it, right? So just reach out. If you're a graduate student, just reach out to other alumni, see what they're doing.
Yeah, you just mentioned networking, and I'm wondering if you can say a bit more about what networking looks like for you, lessons that you've learned when networking with people, what works, what definitely does not work. Yeah.
So for me, again, as people would message me, I would message them, hey, I'm interested in whatever I'm interested in, and can you give me advice? For example, so when I was interested in the part-time role in Epic implementation, I had met this person he's now working for CGI. And I said, hey, I'm interested in learning about Epic. Could you help me? And he told me, hey, Scarborough Health Network is hiring analysts. Just apply and see what happens. And you have to take this to the students, and the people have to take initiative, right? Don't go in expectations with, okay, I have a master's degree, I'm going to make so much money. No, get your foot in the door, work your way, and you will get the labor, the fruit of your labor, right? So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. Great. Thank you. Eamon, sorry, so you still have a hand up. Did you have a follow-up question again? Perfect. Thank you. Just want to make sure I wasn't ignoring you there. Now, sorry, bouncing back to my questions. And actually, looks like Lakshana has a question regarding programming and the streams for health informatics. I know you had mentioned you were concerned about programming. Lakshana, did you want to come on and expand on that question that you put into the chat?
Yeah, so I just want to introduce myself. Lakshana, I'm pursuing health studies. I'm in second year, and I'm kind of interested in pursuing the health informatics option that's combined with my undergrad. I just want to know how it was for not knowing programming, because it is same as you. I don't have any experience in programming at all. So I just want to ask, when you did your MHI, how was it for you without knowing a lot, having like a strong background in programming?
So you don't need strong background in programming, like I said, right? The course that I took was, it's not mandatory, but it's part of the degree. It's CS 638. I'm forgetting the professor's name. It was Tim or something. And that course, if that course wasn't here, I wouldn't be employed. Just put it that way, right? They teach you everything about database, what it is. And at that time I hated it, but every week he had weekly quizzes and assignments, right? And that really reinforces what you're learning. So don't be scared of programming. I think this is the greatest invention ever. I love it now. So yeah, if programming is your fear, don't be scared. They will teach you here. They'll teach it to you. But mind you, you have to, upon graduation, you still have to work on it, right? Because you forget stuff.
Exactly. And also another question I had is, you mentioned the different streams for health informatics. Like, I think you mentioned security and privacy. I just want to know how that is, because currently I'm working in that kind of field, but for education. So I want to see how it works for healthcare.
So I know very little about security and privacy, but so if you want to get in it, I would say find an internship that does take in those kind of roles, right? Again, in healthcare, certifications is big. I know the person that I was mentioning earlier, she had her, I think it's called CISSP. Maybe I'm butchering it, but certifications are big in healthcare. So the key thing is get your foot in the door. Even if it's volunteering, even if sometimes there are student groups also, join them, see what they're doing. Absorb as much as possible, and then apply.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, no worries.
And Rupi's got a hand up.
Yes, let me lower that so it doesn't hang out. Just to, sorry, not a question, just reassuring someone who is concerned about programming. I have a little bit of a background, so this is not super relevant to me, but 2 of the courses in grad, in the PS stream, they were offered as part of the certificate for data analytics. It's Intro to Python, Intro to R. So you can come into those knowing nothing. And I have peers in my class who came into it knowing nothing and were fine. So you can learn these things very quickly. And the University of Waterloo does have some options to help you, and also Coursera, and there's other options. So don't be afraid. And I think people are always afraid you're not going to set your computer on fire. The worst thing that happens is the program doesn't run, and then you press delete and you try again. It's okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Ahmed, you had sorry, I was making sure I was unmuted. You had a bit of a smile on your face when Rupi mentioned press delete. In your career, what's something that, can you share a time or a story about a time where you maybe put in a lot of work, a lot of sweat and tears into it, and then got to a point where, oh shoot, I have to press delete here?
All the time. So I feel there are many times where I would get requests where certain people would ask me certain things, right? And I would answer that, but that's not what they're looking for. As an example, I had a request. They were asking for abnormalities in health, and I filled in the request as they had wanted. But when I double checked with my supervisor that this is what I'm sending it to them, and they're like, no, don't send them this. They're asking for this, but what they actually mean is something else, right? So it's important to, and I'm still learning, and this is when you identify trends, and and I said, oh my God, I worked so much on this, and she's like, yeah, don't worry, it'll come with time. So it's part of the learning process, I guess.
Yeah. I'm curious about, like, you mentioned that you're passionate about working in healthcare, but not medicine. So I'm wondering how you see this field contributing to healthcare, and how do you work with the other areas, like you mentioned the nurses and training as an example, but what are some other ways that your role contributes to the healthcare system?
So I don't know if you have traveled outside of Canada. I've been to Asia. So my background is from Pakistan. I've never lived there, but I've traveled there. I've been to Eastern Europe. If you see the healthcare over there, and you come to Canada and you see what we have here, we take it for granted. I've seen people they track information on pen and paper, and they would go literally use this thick book. They would go back there. Oh, this is what we did on this date, right? And when I came here, I'm like, oh my God. And so for me, that was the self-realization. Okay, this is what I want to do. In terms of nurses, yeah, I think so. If you want direct patient care, this is a great supplementary to it, right? It will, like my sister, she's pursuing nursing, and I'm pushing her to go into health informatics because it will open more doors for you, right? Sure, if you want to do it directly with patient care, that's great. But supplementing health informatics degree will open a lot more doors for you. In fact, I know a lot of nurses that are pursuing this door, they have the C-suite levels, right? So, and for me, I don't like to directly deal with patient care, but I know I'm making contribution. I think that I guess this is more of a personal choice. Why, rather than working for private versus not for private, or for not for profit, I should say.
No, yeah, that's like I said, it's great, and it's interesting to see how it opens up so many doors into healthcare, and how different practitioners can also open up different doors for themselves with the health informatics. Going back to the questions, I'm just quickly checking the chat. Thank you everyone who's been contributing questions so far. It's helpful to know that we're answering relevant ones and not the ones that were submitted by folks who might not even be here. Shani's got another question. Go ahead, Shani, while I get the next one prepped.
Oh, I was just curious if I know that during the pandemic, there's been a trend of pursuing machine learning in health, and if it's just interesting for me to hear your take on it, of whether you see it being implemented more and pursued more from your work experience.
Absolutely, yeah. With the pandemic, any projects that we were thinking, okay, we're going to do this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we have implemented them right away. And I'm surprised at the pace at which we have went to. For example, at our facility, now we are doing remote care monitoring. And so that's basically, if a patient comes in for surgery, there's an app where they would answer questionnaires prior to pre-surgery and post-surgery. And not only that, we have machine learning models that predicts who are likely to have issues or readmissions back into emergency department. So we're running some really cool analytics on that. And one thing that I really care for, and that's important because we are such a diverse country, a diverse city, we are now implementing different languages, right? So in Brampton, a big majority of population does not speak English as their first language, and there's this language barrier. So now we're incorporating into different languages. So I find that pretty cool, where they can answer questionnaires based on their language preferred. So yeah, machine learning, and I find that very it makes me have confidence that, hey, I picked the right career, because I see a lot of doctors jumping on this as well, right? If there was no support from the clinical staff, none of this would be possible. So the clinical staff is first and foremost, they're wanted, because it's helping me. So they, it's helping making their life easier, and they can focus more on the healthcare, right? So yeah, machine learning is a big part of it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about what your day-to-day tasks look like. Like you mentioned, you're working from home and managing yourself, but what are the tasks that you're managing day to day?
So I do go in from time to time. My day-to-day, so the first thing I would do is I would run up my SQL server. All these, any queries that I have pending, I would run it through them. I have, any repetitive task I have automated them. I think Shani was saying that she also has dabbled in a bit of automation. For me, another, I think, so this is a skill that for any graduate students or graduating students or have graduated, learn macro. I utilize that a lot. There might be other tools also, but I personally use macro for automation. That's one task. Other task that I do is keep performance. So we have certain performance indicators. I keep an eye on them. If anything that goes on the right end, I contact the manager. Another thing I do is quality assurance of the case records. So when a nurse fills out patient chart, she has to fill out mandatory fields. If he or she misses it, I have to reach out to them. Hey, can you fill this chart completely? So I do a lot of quality checks. I also do a lot of data submissions to the government as required by the ministry. So those are my day-to-day tasks.
And just out of curiosity, we've had some conversations even in the dean's office with our computing team. There's been an invitation of, if there's something repetitive, we can probably automate it. And I'm wondering how you go about identifying the things that can be automated. What are the characteristics, or some, especially as someone who doesn't have a health informatics degree, but if we're looking to automate things, what are some characteristics we could look for? Aisha, is Ahmed frozen for you as well?
Yeah, I think he might be frozen for everyone.
Okay.
At the moment. Yeah.
Well,
he could be coming back soon.
Yeah, let's just
give it a minute.
take a breath. I guess he really didn't like that question. Now, I think I saw, this is where I gotta just put people on the spot now. But I think I saw in the chat, yeah, Sanuba, you've taken a few of the courses in health informatics as an undergrad. What are some questions that you have about the master's program? And you can also type in the chat if unmuting yourself isn't possible. I'm curious, again, just sort of demographics, maybe show of hands, even if you just want to raise your hand physically or by clicking the button. Who's either currently or a graduate of, like currently involved or a graduate of the MHI program? Okay. Shani, can I ask you a question about the program and what your experience has been?
Sure.
I am so sorry, got disconnected there.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry, Josh, you were asking a question. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, no worries. Welcome back. Yeah, I think it froze, but that's just the joy of technology. What I was asking was, I don't even remember now. Now I was just trying to fill the time. Something along the lines of, who can help me out here? Aisha, do you remember what I was asking?
If I'm being completely honest, no.
How do you identify how to automate processes?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Shani.
That's it.
Yeah, so many of the requests that I do receive, if they have the same template. So in an Excel, if it's same template, if it's in a particular cell, that's when I automate it. If I see if they want different formatting issues, then I don't. But that's a very good question. Yeah.
And what I'm taking from that as a semi-illiterate person when it comes to data and data analysts is probably best just to ask, and they'll be able to tell you if it's something to be automated or that they can they'll have to help you out case by case.
Yeah. No, I fear if they do a major upgrade in the applications, then I have to redo all the work that I've done.
Also a fair concern. Yeah. Okay, and yeah, I was about to ask Shani this question, so maybe you and Shani could answer it. I'm curious about the learning experience with your peers. Did it feel like it's online, but did it feel like you were part of a cohort, or you had classmates that you could reach out to and that you supported each other? Was it more individual? What was the learning experience like in relation to your peers?
Shani, you want to go first, or since you're more recent?
Sure. I thought it was fine. The MHI program is kind of forcing you to work with your peers and get to know your peers, because it's very heavily project based. Like there's no exams to really do, apart from like a couple of exceptions here and there. So I found that just relying on collaborating with great tools like Teams, Zoom, whatever you can kind of get your hands on, and working on projects like throughout the semester and having weekly meetings, it helps to engage with your peers, even though it's a completely remote program. So that was kind of my experience with it. I don't know.
So I will second that. Also, in my case, we had a group of students that ended up, so we were all full-time stream. And so somehow it happened this way that we took the courses at the same time. So we always had the same group of students in the same projects. Good and bad. The bad, you didn't get to meet new students, but you would, I think so. There were discussion boards where we would interact ideas. So I was looking in this department where it was 4 or 5 group of students that we ended up taking the same courses, and it was a nice one. And till this day, we keep in touch.
That's awesome. Thanks to both of you for sharing what it was like to actually learn in the program. I'm wondering what challenges you're seeing in the field these days, or what are the big challenges that people are talking about as we look forward 5-10 years in health informatics?
So I think I briefly touched on it. I think so. Language barrier is one. It's hard to implement something, at least in a diverse place as Brampton, if there is no buy-in from the patient. So that's one. Again, buy-in also from the clinical staff. That's a big one, right? If we are implementing all these things and the clinical staff is not willing to use it or use it in the right way, those are the major challenges. And that goes into learning and teaching the technology.
Yeah, buy-in's always the trickiest piece. It seems like no matter what we're talking about, getting buy-in or creating buy-in or bringing people in is always a challenge.
Yeah.
As we move towards the end, we've got about probably 10 more minutes, and then we'll wrap things up. So definitely feel free to continue adding questions into the chat, folks. Appreciating that. But what's some advice that you would give your younger self?
Don't panic. I think so. I try to do things fast. Like, why isn't this happening to me? Like faster. Things will come at its due time. Listen to experts, right? Again, going back to like when Ashley was helping me out. My first 3 interviews were bad, especially the first one with the city of Waterloo. I literally wanted to cry in tears and just walk out, because they had asked me some business analysis questions, and they had even prepared a mini test for me, and they didn't tell me that there was going to be a test involved. So don't panic. Take things easy. If you fail, move on. Right? It's not the end of the world. Yeah, believe in yourself. That's what I would tell my younger self for sure.
Yeah, the don't panic piece.
Yeah,
It's still important to remind myself sometimes.
absolutely.
Okay, let's take a breath here, and then what's gonna happen is gonna happen. But no, that's great advice. Thank you.
If you had told me prior to the meeting that, hey, Ahmed, your computer is going to get stuck during the presentation, right?
Yeah, thank you for that great example. I think it really drove the point home, just like we practiced. That was great.
Right.
You've touched on the different certifications that would be helpful for people to get hired or to get interviews. But I'm wondering about taking it a step back in terms of providing job search. Like what recommendations would you have for someone looking for work? What are they, honestly, even half the battle is, what are they calling jobs these days? What are the things that people should be looking for that you think this program well prepared them?
So my person was Ashley. I think so. I bother her a lot. If she does a search by my name, she probably has the most emails from me. So I'm probably going to deter this to Ashley. I don't know what she would recommend. What's the recommendation these days?
So what I usually recommend to students is take advantage of LinkedIn, take advantage of people who are within your cohort. There's different people with different levels of experience who are taking the program. So reach out and get to learn about people and what their backgrounds are and what they're currently doing for their jobs. Also, just get involved in things that are happening around health informatics. So there's different associations and societies that you can join as a student. There's different events that you can attend with coach, like or digital health, sorry, get involved and just see who you can network and meet along the way, because you never know what journey they're going to take you down. And if you want to reach out to different people and see learn about people's career paths and attend events like this, and through LinkedIn too, if there's a certain position or organization that you're interested in working at, then reach out to them and see if they can have a quick interview with you, and that you can ask some questions and learn. And I think join the 10,000 coffees platform as well. I always encourage my students to do that, because that allows current students and alumni to connect. Oh, and they connect you based on your similar interests. So if you can be a part of that, then that's a great free platform to help you meet people along the way.
Actually, yeah. So just the point on Ashley, which is the Digital Health Club, I would assume is still the part of the graduate degree. Utilize that membership. They have some amazing, I think they used to send it out a weekly or every Wednesday they would have some meetings or seminar. Utilize that because they tell you what's about to come in healthcare. So actually, I totally forgot about that. Digital Health Canada was one of them. Another one was Sky High. So that's another big one. If you don't know anything about health informatics, look up Sky High for sure. I'm trying to think of anything else. Yeah, those are the two big ones. Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. And it looks like there's a hand from Sanuba. Whenever you're ready. Awesome, thank you.
Hi, how are you? So I just have one question now that you were mentioning jobs and all of these things. Like, is it the same for an undergrad? Like, it makes sense when you have a master's in health informatics or some experience in that end. But like, I'm in my 4B semester and I'm really inclined towards health informatics. I'm currently working at Sun Life, and I was just wondering if those are the same opportunities, or is it better to first get your, I don't know, like a kind of certification in health informatics and then start applying to jobs? Does that make it easier?
So if you're asking whether it's better to get a job right away or pursue further education, is that what you're asking me? Or
well, sort of. That would be part of the question too.
See, there is no substitute for experience, none.
Okay.
Get your foot in the door. I would tell you the same thing. Get your foot in the door, any healthcare job, and then pursue MHI. Don't even go to these other. I think the McMaster, again, I don't want to, they have these certifications, right? I don't want to throw shade at other universities, but there are institutions out there that have certifications in health informatics. I would say, and if you look at the cost of them, it's almost as much as a master's degree. So master's, in a way, there is no comparison, right? Yeah, but if you're going for certifications for the purposes of, tools, data tools, go for those, hands down. Right. And in fact, I would say go for tools better than a health degree, because if you don't want to work in healthcare, you can go in other fields. But if you're passionate about health and healthcare and you want to go into health informatics, then it's a no-brainer, health informatics. But again, no substitute for experience.
Right. Thank you so much. That does make a lot of sense, especially in the way the world is like trending now and developing. It does make a lot of sense. Thank you.
I'm just looking in the chat, and Edna's posted that Digital Health Canada is hosting a virtual career fair on this Thursday. So Edna, if you have a link to that, that would be something that we would love to see in the chat, and I think folks here might be interested in. Last question for you, and then I can turn it over for any closing remarks you might have, Ahmed. But what's something that you're maybe not? Basically, the question is, what are you most proud of in your career? Something that's really you're proud of and brings a smile to your face every time you think of it.
So a lot of people wouldn't know this over here for sure. So when you see an application, you're like, I did that. So there is this in Meditech. Once you log in, I created that, right? And this was only possible from my knowledge at the University of Waterloo, right? So each time you log in, I have worked on it, right? Not a lot of people would know this, but I know that, and that brings pride to me and joy to me, right? That I was doing that while I was an intern. Obviously, right now, I have things that I can say that I've pointed, but that's probably the one thing that I'm most proud of as doing the internship.
That's awesome, and I can imagine the pride of seeing your work being such a essential part. It seems like it's so normal, and some people it's second nature. They don't even think about their login; they punch it in. But that's something that's so key to the work. So that's cool. No, that's cool. The day-to-day impact that your role is having with basically anyone logging in on your systems. That's super cool. Any closing remarks, final words of wisdom? You've been great. I really appreciate you sharing your experiences and your advice, and the preparation, the thought that you've put into this as well. Definitely appreciate that. But what closing remarks might you have for this group?
So when it comes to MHI, if you're going to pursue this, go with this program. I have not second guessed it. I have actually, let me share something. Let me see if I can share this. Hold on. Okay, let me share my screen. Can I share my screen here?
I think so. Down at the bottom. Now you may not have host permissions.
I think you should be able to, but
okay, let's see.
Let me know if you're not able to.
Okay, so this is something that I received. Can you guys see this picture?
Mm-hmm.
So this wouldn't apply to everyone, but if you reach out to me, let me read this. Okay. Hi, Ahmed. I hope you've been well. Just letting you know, I'm starting the MHI program at Waterloo this September. Thank you for our discussion beforehand. Our conversation definitely helped me better structure my personal statement. If you have any additional suggestions in making the best of this kind of program or comments on courses you found especially interesting or challenging, I would really appreciate your expertise before I get started. So I will, if you message me, I will try my best to respond. And again, I'm a believer in this program. I have always, how do I end this? Stop share, yeah. So I'm a big believer in this program, and I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend it without hesitation.
No, that's great, and I appreciate you being such an engaged alumni and someone willing to field those questions from folks and then to help them. So for the folks who, I'm not sure if everyone was on the call when you mentioned this, but that was a prospective student reaching out just for help on a certain part of the application that Ahmed gave them some advice on, and that student's now starting in the program in September. So yeah, that was, I think that's just a great way to end it. I appreciate you sharing that, and it's great encouragement for everyone here to not be afraid to reach out with any type of question they might have for folks. Okay, so there's also a note in there just about the virtual career fair. There's an email in the chat that you can grab, and if you're interested for there. But I think I'll wrap it up with saying a big thank you to Ahmed. Thank you to everyone else who joined us over the lunchtime to join us for this conversation. Just please note that a survey will be in your inbox, and we definitely encourage you to complete that as soon as possible and share your feedback. We definitely go through it, and we want to be able to make this the best experience for you folks and engaging. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, please take the time to fill out that survey. We do appreciate it. And I think Aisha is able to put Ahmed's LinkedIn profile. Awesome. Thank you, Aisha. So if you have any questions, you want to reach out or connect with Ahmed, there's his LinkedIn profile. Please feel free to send him a message there. And lastly, actually, I think that is everything. So we've got a few minutes to spare. There's a 2-minute lunch break for everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget about the other alumni office hours that are listed online, and pay attention. Look out for those. I think in where are we, in June? Don't think there's any in July, but in the fall term, we're definitely going to be having some as well. So keep an eye out for these alumni office hours. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys. Bye. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Bye.